So I'm here today with Tony, and thank you for giving us your time. My name's Rob.
Pleasure.
I'm what's called an emergency nurse clinician for coming up to 30 years now. I've worked in the emergency departments across the Northwest, nearly 25 in the Royal in Liverpool and coming up to 5 years now in Salford Royal. And what we've been doing for the last 15 years is trying to educate as many young people as possible about the reality of knife crime. When I started in A&E back in 1995, if somebody came in and had been stabbed and you weren't on duty, you were like, well, what did you do? What did you have to see? Nobody bats an eyelid now, because we're seeing more and more of it.
Many.
Yeah, and what we've done, Liverpool is an amazing city. I'm a Scouser born and bred, maybe a West Ham fan, but we won't talk about that right now. And I do want you guys to win tonight. But the reality is we know that there's a problem. But what we're doing in Liverpool, we are such a proactive city. We're not sort of hiding behind, people are carrying knives. What we're doing is trying to educate young people. And just outside the doors here in Fusion, where we are this morning, there's a bleed box. So if somebody gets stabbed in the city centre, you can go to that box, you can call 999, press a code, and there are 4 packs in there that could potentially save somebody's life. If somebody got stabbed outside here, how long do you think it would take for an ambulance to get here? Friday night, Saturday night?
Friday, Saturday night?
Get down Wood Street.
An hour?
Well, hopefully not, but how long do you think it would take somebody to bleed to death from a single stab wound?
5 minutes.
Yeah, 5 minutes. And that's why it's so important that we educate as many people as possible how to deal with a bleed, and that's why your status in the city and your social media presence is so valuable to us. And that's why we're grateful to your time today.
It's a pleasure. I think it's an understatement and a misunderstanding to say it's a problem. It's an epidemic what we're in. It's an absolute travesty what's going on with knives on the streets, and I'm not used to it now. I mean, when I used to work in town and work on nightclub doors, it would be very rare. I mean, to think about it, I think I've seen a gun pulled more than I've seen a knife pulled when I was working on nightclub doors. And now it's like I said, it's an epidemic. It's a norm for kids going out. A knife is as common as having the phone in the pocket. So it's like, it's phone, money, knife. Yeah. And this is the problem that we're living with, and we need to address it immediately, whether it's politicians who I've sat down and spoke to, whether it's council leaders, whether it's mayors of the city. It's got to be addressed. It's a serious, it's beyond the problem, it's an epidemic what we're in.
To me, the answer to all of those people, but actually the answer is the young people. Because,
Education.
Education. I'm, as I said, I'm in my 50s now. I'm not the answer. The answer are these young people, because they are our future. They're the future generation. And if we can get that education into them, if they will listen to even one of us and save one life, it's got to be worth us doing it. It
shows that what you guys are doing is working. This is the main reason why I'm here today. I get asked to do so many of these different things, but I've had to make it a priority to get here, and looking at this thing is a scary sight.
So from your point of view, Tony, if you came across somebody that had been stabbed and God willing it wouldn't happen, what would you do?
My first thing and first thought is, I've done first aid, but I'm not obviously a specialist in stab wounds, but my thing would be to pack the wound as much as I possibly can.
What would you pack it with? You've got a bleed pack.
Okay, well, this is the first time I've ever seen one of these guys, so just so you know, I haven't seen it, I haven't even opened it before I've come in, so I'm dealing with this straight off the cuff.
So in these bleed packs, you've got this stuff. This stuff is incredible stuff. This is basically impregnated with like seashell. And what you need to do, you can imagine that the wound's pretty horrific there. You obviously have gloves on and you pack it in. And if you keep packing that stuff in there, then that potentially is going to lead to that bleeding and there clotting.
Brilliant.
Okay. So you get that as much of it in as you can, because that's what's going to stop it.
So I'm not as thick as I thought I was. That was said the right thing.
You did say the right thing. But what are you going to do if you've not got a bleed pack?
One of your best good t-shirts.
You know, I was going to say to myself, you're going to tear the top. I mean, you can't really take a sock off because you're going to probably get the infection in there. At
that point, it doesn't matter. So you're at home. Think about this. You're at home in the kitchen, okay, and your tap starts to leak. What are you going to do?
Stop the water.
How are you going to stop the water?
Going to the valve.
Yeah, okay, you can't get to the valve. It's just hosing out everywhere. You don't know where the valve is.
You've obviously got to cover it up. I'm pack it basically.
Okay, what are you going to pack it with?
Something that can absorb and press back.
Okay, like what? You're in the kitchen. What have you got?
Tea towels.
Exactly. It doesn't matter, does it? No,
basically,
you just don't want that water spraying all over the kitchen. And bleeding is basically like plumbing. We're not asking you to take anybody to theatre and fix them, 6-hour operations. What we're asking you to do is stop bleeding. So if you've got a tap in a kitchen that's leaking, you're just going to grab what's to hand, whether that's your tea towel, whether it's a jacket that's on the side, a jumper, whatever, and you're going to try and stop that bleeding until you can get somebody who's experienced, knows how to turn off that valve.
So I'm right in thinking, but literally don't worry about what it is, just pack it and close. Just
pack it. Apply pressure. How long are you keeping the pressure on for?
Until the medics are off.
Exactly, yeah. You don't take your hands off to have a wee look. You keep that pressure on as hard as you can for as long as you can. Again, within the pack, you've got these dressings that you can wrap around once you've packed it, and these will apply huge amounts of pressure if you get it round there, and you can get that really, really tight and get that round.
My question,
yeah, of course,
and I'm thinking of is what do you do if emergency services can't get to you or won't get to you? And then also the second question is what do you do if people stop breathing?
If they stop breathing, what do you think they do?
Can you start doing mouth to mouth? Can you start doing the chest pumps with this on?
Yeah, absolutely. But you're going to need an extra pair of hands, realistically, aren't
Okay.
you? Yeah.
Once this is packed and once there's a breathing, I've seen people stab before,
yeah.
and they tend to they want to go to sleep.
Yeah.
But you've got to keep them awake.
You've got to try and keep them awake. You can lift up their legs, that'll keep their blood pressure up if you can.
Oh, okay, legs above the heart.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so that'll keep their pressure up. All of this, actually, is the easy thing. What do you think the hardest part of my job is?
Closing the wound.
Nope.
Getting the packing out.
Nope.
Keeping them calm.
Have you got kids?
Yeah, 4.
How old are your kids, if you don't mind me asking?
18, 15, 11 and 4.
The hardest part of my job is never the blood and guts. I've done this for nearly 30 years, mate.
Okay.
And we're trained to deal with this. And when we're dealing with this in the hospital, there's a team. There's a team of 5 to 10 of us often dealing with this. Somebody looking after an airway, somebody getting drips in, somebody, running the thing, somebody giving blood. The hardest part of my job, if you've been killed, I will tell your family within the first 10 seconds of me meeting them. And I'll say something like this: hi, my name's Rob, I'm one of the clinicians here. I'm sorry, I've got no good news to tell you. I'm sorry to say your son's dead. And that is by far the worst part of my job. And in the time that I've broken bad news to families, I've been spat at, kicked, punched, bitten, and I've had my glasses broken. And the reason's this: I can predict how physically you would react depending on where you get stabbed. I can never predict how a parent reacts when they get someone like me going through and saying those words. Hi, my name's Rob, I'm sorry, I've got no good news to tell you. I'm sorry to say your son's dead. And it is as brutal as that. Absolutely brutal. And that by far, even after 30 years of doing this job, you speak to anybody in our field, that is by far the worst part of my job, when in that first 10 to 15 seconds, I'm destroying some family's life. You've lost people that you love. What do? You go and hold a hand, stroke their arm, kiss them goodbye. It's not allowed to happen. Your family can come through, but they'll be kept probably 20 feet away from you. If there's blood all over your face, that stays there. If there's a tube down your throat where we've tried to breathe for you, that tube stays in place. If we've cracked open your chest to try and get your heart started again, all that metalwork stays in place, because we can't clean any of that up. Because if we do, we're basically interfering with evidence.
It's a scene of a crime.
It's a scene of a crime. And often when you come in, having been stabbed, we don't even know your name until we go through and meet the family and say, he was actually a good lad. He used to go to the match with his dad. He used to take his granny's dog for a walk. She was a lovely girl. We worried when she started going out with that lad that something like this would happen. That's what makes my job hard. That's by far the hardest part of my job. And again, another reason why it's so important, so that we don't have to have that conversation with anybody to break that news.
You'd never think that's a part of your job, but it obviously is.
Yeah.
The only thing I'm thinking about is the wound and the stabbing.
Yeah. Why would you think of anything else?
Of course.
Yeah.
And you just, to put it as blunt as that, is thinking you've got to go and speak to the parents first. It's just frightening.
Yeah.